Hi there, welcome to Terraland Soap Opera. Today I'm going to do a reading for Cancer energy. And like usual on this channel, we are going to do two rows. The top row I refer to as high vibe Cancer energy. The bottom row, a more worldly, shadowy Cancer energy. We all have free will and we have to make these decisions in our life. And the bottom row can just represent staying in our comfort zone and facing our fears about maybe moving forward a little differently in some way. The bottom row could also represent some of our fears or insecurities or people in our life that maybe we should move away from. And we have to make those decisions in our life. So there could be some people right now kind of debating within themselves when we're moving forward in our life. We always kind of have to work through, if you choose to work through and temper your more like fearful, insecure, self-indulgent, immature, lazy, whatever, our shadow nature can cover a lot of topics. But to keep those in check so you kind of don't sabotage how you're trying to move forward in life. And some people are doing that. And some people are living their life in a way that they could be happy with. They feel they're moving forward, and in their life, they could be moving forward a little differently. They have their own fears, insecurities, self-limiting beliefs. And, if you were to kind of compare people to other people, say maybe at different ages, we kind of have different life experience. We might have different fears and insecurities and concerns. And so it's kind of relative. But then as we're moving forward, are we tempted more to keep staying in our comfort zone or keep repeating certain patterns that right here at the end, we have the wealthy man, which is the King of Pentacles, which can represent kind of the world and our worldly nature. We can move forward in life differently, but because of our worldly nature, it stops us in the Ship card, which is fire sign energy, from taking that more creative, inspired action in our life. And then, two, it could be because of a job or people in our life, because I view the King of Pentacles as Capricorn energy. For some, you could be dealing with Capricorn. For other people, Capricorn energy can just represent our more worldly nature. And for some, you are in the job, friendship, or relationship, or investing in those things that are aligned with your truth, and you are putting in work and effort to bring that ship of dreams kind of into reality. Well, let's stay with the top row for now. We have past life, garden, mice, adjudication, and wealthy man. And the wealthy man can be male or female. It can just be how people are presenting themselves in the world. The people who are being authentic, they are male or female. They have learned some lessons in life. They have freed themselves from some things that used to manipulate them. I view this as Capricorn. Shadowy Capricorn can represent, a past way of being that was more immature, prideful, stubborn, lazy, self-indulgent, insecure, codependent, whatever it could have been, right? And so you have done this work. At the end of the bottom row, we have the Death card, the Lilies, which is also Capricorn energy, the Caregiver, and the Bouquet card, which is Virgo energy. It's our Virgo nature within ourself that helps us work through kind of doing the inner work, looking at some of those things that we maybe didn't realize, how those things were manipulating us, or seeing the truth of some issues that we need to deal with. And maybe because something we could have realized in the Coffin card, which is similar to the Death card in tarot, that some way we were living our life, or people or jobs, we weren't on the same page. We could have ended a relationship with them. They could have ended a relationship with us. Their truth could have been different. Over here, we have the Tree card, which is also Virgo energy. Our long-term goals of how we want to move forward is kind of what Virgo energy can talk about. And also, the death card talks about, are we willing, kind of in fire sign energy, are we inspired to change? Because the death card talks about death and transformation. I lived my life a certain way. I had certain habits, patterns, vices, hobbies, people I hung out with, jobs, friendships, relationships. And then something could have happened. We could have even lost a loved one in our life or something, or a best friend could have moved away or something. Whatever it is, something made some people realize that maybe the path they were on wasn't going, maybe you had different dreams, because the fire sign energy of Aries and the card of the ship of dreams is kind of like the way they want to move forward and invest their time, energy, and effort. Their idea of the dream life is different than your idea. And so you did this work within yourself to, and Aries energy is also about the self. You did this work within yourself to care for yourself and like love and believe in yourself. You could have been in a relationship with people who didn't want you to do that, because then you would free yourself from things that manipulated you, maybe being less about them or tempted in your more worldly nature. So you could have harnessed your Virgo energy different. Your philosophy of life is Taurus energy, and then we have Capricorn. In all three of your earth sign nature of yourself, we all tap into all the zodiac signs. In all three of your earth sign energies, you're more inspired to maybe have more hope and faith and belief in yourself and in your dreams, and inspired to kind of work through some issues of things that manipulate you. And other people, that could not be their truth. You know, we can choose not to love ourselves. We can choose, and the truth sets us free. And in high vibe, the King of Pentacles is holding one pentacle, which doing that work within ourselves in our Virgo nature gives us that truth. And it sets us free from old ways of living life, viewing life, growing up, maturing ourselves, getting out from our ego about some things, healing from past pain and heartbreak, whatever it was. And when you do that, you know, you're going to want to move forward differently. And some other people in your life might not want to do that. They might not want to deal with the truth of some issues that they might need to heal from, might not be ready to do that, but some people may never do that. Some people aren't inspired to live their life differently. A more shadowy worldly energy and Cancer, talking about love of self and what we love, some people kind of invest in themselves in a more shadowy way where it is really just more about them. Or they love making their life more about these things of the world, the things they indulge in, ego, image, money, or something. And love maybe isn't really what drives and motivates them. You know, if they like the people or it works out, but the big driving factor of why they could get in certain job, friendships, or relationships, whether they like those jobs, friendships, or relationships, is it good for my ego and my image? Does it have the stability or the security or the status or image that I want? Because their high vibe energy is being more balanced. And up here we have the Garden card, which is a Libra energy. Wanting a more balanced life. I want some of these things of the world too, but I want a job that I like. Other people would be willing to stay in a job that they maybe don't like. So long as, you know, everybody's got different tolerance levels. I don't care how they act. I don't care how they treat me. I don't care. So long as I've got the money, the status, the image, or that person's willing to stay in a relationship with me, because high vibe energy is about being more independent. Some people could be more codependent, and we've all been there at different times in our life. Maybe just don't feel very balanced within themselves, or have a hard time maintaining more balance within themselves. Maybe so it could make them more codependent on their friends or their family or being in a romantic relationship. But some other people did the work within themselves emotionally, because this is a feminine figure. And so then they could have worked through with the past life, meaning The death card of Scorpio is also represented by the Six of Cups, and the Six of Cups can kind of talk about repeating past patterns. We'll all repeat certain patterns until we kind of have that light bulb moment. Oh my gosh, I'm repeating an old pattern. Why do I do this? And then it's like, yeah, no. In the death card, I'm not going to keep doing that. Or if I've been doing it and I keep seeing in the death card, it doesn't move my life forward the way I want, I need to stop investing in those things. I need to do this work within myself emotionally to maybe get more balance within myself, heal and grow and mature myself in the adjudication card, hold myself accountable to a higher standard, or maybe there's some people in my life I need to hold them accountable. Sometimes people can be very emotionally nurturing and loving people, male or female. And they can always be trying to change other people. The mice card up here says, it says the second house on it, which, it is Taurus. And Taurus also kind of reminds me of the Five of Pentacles card, and the fives can talk about change. There can be people that sometimes will get in relationships with people that kind of we don't even realize why we're kind of drawn and attracted to them, but we could be kind of drawn and attracted to them because they do remind us of people from our life, whether that's kind of having some similar traits and characteristics of our mom or our dad, or friendship groups or whatever that we've hung out with. And so it's in our comfort zone. And again, we kind of like to stay in our comfort zone. And again, we might not have learned at that time to invest in ourselves, to love ourselves, maybe hadn't healed. And so then we'll kind of repeat this old pattern. And sometimes we can get in relationships with people that there could be some people in our life that we loved and that we were sad that maybe we didn't quite. Libra can also represent about getting justice. And so then Taurus can talk about relationships and friendships and workplaces and all that. And philosophies of life, ways people act and behave and treat other people. And we could have a hard time calling judgment on some people. And also, we want to be in friendship and relationship. But we could be drawn to getting in relationships with people who could have some of those same traits and characteristics and ways of conducting themselves, like some people we've known, even though we might not have cared for some of those ways of being or traits or characteristics, but we do know how to deal with people like that because we've already dealt with people like that in our life. So it kind of keeps us in our comfort zone. And we could hope that maybe if there was some people in our life that we thought were more bossy or controlling or kind of shadowy or not very loving, not very just, full of themselves, whatever, hopefully we'd get in relationships with people who aren't seeming to exactly have that same degree of it. I think we'd probably generally tend to get in a relationship with someone who, and again, we might not consciously be aware of it till after the fact, but we could get in relationships with people that there are some aspects about them that are, again, hopefully not to the same degree. And we could have this hope that this time we'll get justice, that the people will change. That way we don't have to change. We kind of get to be in a relationship with people where we're kind of staying in our comfort zone, but we can always hope other people will change. And that can kind of be us not wanting to see the truth, because the King of Pentacles is holding that one pentacle. High Vibe Virgo is about dealing with the truth. But we also have a lot of lessons to learn, right? We are going to go on a lot of life experiences, and part of coming in contact with all these different people throughout our life, from the time we were children, was to help us get more clear about what our truth is and our truth isn't. But we also have to be willing to accept the truth that, we could have a way of living life and viewing life that we think is just and fair, that we like, we enjoy, and we have to accept the truth that other people have their way of living life and things they want to go invest their time, energy, and effort into, and they don't have to change. Now, if we've changed throughout our life, we've kind of grown or healed or matured ourselves in certain ways that we don't act or behave or think or feel or treat people in certain ways. You were 8, you were 15, you were 18, you were 21, you were 25. At those different stages of life, we looked at life from certain vantage points, and we had different ways of living life at those different stages of life that we thought were just and fair. When you've kind of detached from those ways of being in the death card, no, I used to live my life that way, I viewed life that way, I acted that way, and I've kind of emotionally, because Scorpio is emotional water sign energy also, I've kind of detached from some of those ways of being because I saw it kind of wasn't moving my life forward, and I have this dream that I want to manifest. So I can't keep acting like an 8-year-old or a 15-year-old or an 18-year-old or a 21-year-old all my life. If I keep getting older and I want to be a more emotionally mature, self-aware, insightful, that's like high vibe Virgo and high vibe Capricorn, I've got to free myself from my more immature ways of being. Quit indulging in my more immature nature or fearful nature, codependent nature. And some people did do that. And they've done it. Virgo can talk about taking these slow, steady steps throughout our life. And some people did take those slow, steady steps throughout their life. And there could have been some people who never really took some of those steps. So, you can know, like, say, for example, a narcissist, that would be in love with themself. It's kind of all more about them. Well, those are people who never got out of their more egocentric, self-centered nature. Can they be 35 to 85 years old? Sure. But they're still just more, they emotionally kind of indulge themselves, and they think that's just and fair, and then it's just to try to get in relationship with people and hope that other people think that's just and fair, And if people have dealt with people who kind of were more shadowy energy, can be being more manipulative, trying to confuse people about the truth of what really drives and motivates them. I mean, some wear a very good false mask, and they present themselves like they harness these energies in a high vibe way, but they harness them more in a shadowy way. I'm going to present myself, so shadowy people try to present themselves as more high vibe people. I'm going to present myself like I'm this more just and fair and stable and grounded mature person, male or female. I'm going to try to present myself like I have learned some of these lessons in life like other people. And the whole thing is, they might have learned some lessons that some other people haven't learned. They might be more stable, more grounded, put more work and effort to have a certain status or image or stability in their life than some other people we could know. So, by contrast, when we meet people who seem to be more stable, grounded, or mature than some other people we've known in our life, we could kind of think with some of those people like, oh my gosh, I have met someone who's kind of more on the same page as me. And you could move forward in friendship or relationship with those people for a long time because they can present themselves as being much more just, fair, stable, balanced, mature than some other people you've known in your life. But it could, with some of those people that we've come in contact with, eventually we could kind of realize that, they could have the attitude that other people have some growing and healing and maturing to do, which we all do. At any given time, we have some fears, some insecurities, some self-limiting beliefs, some past pain and heartbreak we haven't dealt with. And they like to present themselves as being that type of person in people's lives. Like, I am this stable, grounded, loving person, and that's why you get in a relationship with them. And yeah, during the course of that relationship, it could, it's an environment that if people are motivated within themselves, they do some of this work within themselves. But when you get to where you kind of do free yourself from some of those things, and you could even think maybe that they'd be proud of you and that, let's keep moving forward. And that's when they're like, what? Well, no, I'm not going to do that. No, we're going to keep doing this, so because that would require them to work through some of their issues and be inspired within themselves to work through some of their issues. And that's when some of those people can say, no, I guess you're ready to move on. I'm not. And then they want to go repeat that pattern with someone else. So they really don't ever really want to step out of their comfort zone. They don't want to shed an old version or a layer of themselves or work through things that they need to work through, that they would need to hold themselves accountable or call judgment on some things or people in their life to become independent of it. And the reason for the top rose reading is the Aries energy in their own fire sign nature within themselves. Emotionally, they could just be, that is the kind of relationship dynamic they like. They like to play kind of a caregiver role in people's lives, just like kind of loving people, authentically loving people can do that. It's just that authentically loving people are willing to do the work within themselves to see where they need to change too. And then they keep healing and growing and maturing themselves and moving forward. And some other people could think, well, if I have a certain status or image or charm or looks or whatever, I'm good doing this. And if you don't want to just keep doing this, but if you keep moving forward in a certain pattern, the coffin death card talks about, it's like dead. Love gives birth to new things. And the other people could be like, no, let's just keep doing this. I have inner conflict about calling judgment on some things that I would need to emotionally detach from to move forward in life differently. So I want to just keep doing this. And then the people who really are ready to kind of give birth to something new, it's like staying in something where nothing's going to change. And then kind of even some of the people in your life who at one time you viewed as more just, fair, stable, balanced, loving people, they could have some inner conflict of even continuing to be in a relationship with you, because some people kind of drive their ego off of, I like to view myself as this loving, nurturing person, and I like to get in relationships with people who, over here we have the death card, the change card, the despair card, the sweetheart card, the tree, which can be something foundationally, ended. Like, oh, I like to be in friendships and relationships with people who are sad, like a friendship didn't work out, or they lost their job, or their relationship broke up, or they're having trouble in their relationship. They like to play that role in people's life, and it can kind of be a way of kind of building their sense of self-worth and their ego and how they define themselves. And, maybe in comparison, even if they get in relationship with people who are kind of more shadowy and immature and reckless, they by default seem like the more stable, grounded, mature person. And then it can almost be like the martyr, I'm just such a loving, nurturing person. Look at these people that I'm in friendship and relationship with, and I know these things don't really go the way I wanted, but I love them, and I'm going to martyr myself, and I'm going to sacrifice my dreams to be in a relationship with them. They've maybe had opportunities to move forward with people where it would be a more just, fair, stable, balanced, loving relationship, but they really kind of don't want that kind of relationship. They can like it where they're the one who seems to play that role in people's life, but those relationships only last as long as the people that they're in a relationship with don't kind of heal. And then, like I say, to some degree, they don't care if those people keep doing things or acting certain ways because it always kind of makes them look like the more stable, grounded, loving person. But if people heal and grow and mature themselves and want to become independent of a phase of life, they're like, you can go, I'll go find someone else to go repeat this whole pattern with. And some people have been in relationships with people like that and they've moved on. Some people are in relationships with people like that and they're starting to see the truth of it and they're going to move on, going to call judgment on it. You know, nothing is moving forward. It's not, we want to live our life differently, basically. So I'm going to let you live your life that way. But I have found out I don't want to keep living my life that way because, you know, any phase of life we go into, initially, it can seem very, like, just and fair. Like, we became an 18-year-old, for an example, or we became a 21-year-old. It's like, yeehaw, you know? And it seems there's all these possibilities, and kind of the gate is we walk through that gate to go to the next magical land that we're waiting for to go to. And we're sure it's going to be really abundant in some ways. And so we move there in that way and we detach from these old ways of moving forward. And then we move forward in this new way. We work through our mental conflict and our fears and insecurities. We put in this work and effort to kind of free ourselves from that stage of life. But, you know, we all kind of had to kind of grow up and mature ourselves in some ways to some degree, you know, or we'd have just completely dysfunctional, not being a contributing member of society, you know. But so everybody can want to be in friendship and relationship. That can be part of their dream. But are you inspired to be in a relationship where you have to keep kind of doing this work within yourself, you know, and being willing to see where, you know, you could benefit from changing instead of always thinking it's the other people who have to change. You know, that would be a more balanced relationship. Can some people have more skills, traits, expertise, maturity or something, and knowledge in certain areas than some other people? Yeah. Can the other people have their unique thing and contribution that, you know, makes it all work? And do we value each other for what they bring and what they contribute, even though it can be different? Some people are very abundant. The wealthy man and Virgo and stuff can talk about, you know, what you bring to the table. Are you just? Are you fair? Are you loving? Do you try to see things from other people's perspective? Do you work with people cooperatively? You know, if you were an employer looking and working with different employees, if some people have more work experience or book smarts or something like that, and other people can do the job, but maybe they don't have as much work experience, and maybe they don't have some degree or more of a degree or something, you know, which one would you rather work with? The one who has some of those things, but they're easy to work with and they're nice to work with and they're cooperative and inquisitive and inspired within themselves, or the people who might have more job experience, more education, but they're more difficult to deal with and less inspired within themselves to take initiative within themselves. You know, like if you don't kind of dog on them, oh, they don't do it. Where the other people is just like you find out like, oh, they kind of took on this project and they did this and this. It's like, wow, you know? And there could be some people, just like people do that in friendship groups and relationships, people do it in workplaces, you know? Who are the people who seem to be more, you do that with people you work with, other people do that with you, people in your community, people in organizations or whatever. Who are the people who seem to be more easy to get along with and less maybe kind of superficial. That can be shadowy Scorpio, who seems to be more authentic, who seems to be more stable and grounded within themselves. And the people who are looking for people like that want to invest in people like that. The people who could try to present themselves as being that kind of person, but they really are kind of more superficial and shallow, or kind of full of themselves, or it's what you wear and what you drive and the connections that you have, and all these kind of status things. Well, those people aren't going to be as interested to work with people like that. They're kind of like to seem like above other people. And shadowy energy can be trying to manipulate and control people, and could like to manipulate and control people. Shadowy Scorpio can be about like trying to intimidate people, and they could like to use their status or their image or their looks or their social clout or their education or their power influence, try to manipulate and control people. And they, of course, think people should want to work with them because of whatever it is in their head that makes them think that, they have some certain status or image in the world. And the high vibe people are looking for people. I really don't care. So long as you're not immature, I accept that everybody's different. I just want to work with people that I can work with, and just and fair and loving and compassionate people. I don't care if you're a cowboy or a biker or a doctor or blue hair, black hair, white hair, blue eyes. I just don't care about any of it, Just, are you not in shadowy energy? And, we can get along and be kind of like supportive, encouraging people to each other in our lives. And for some people, it's just like, the more they're consumed with themselves, the more it would be, well, why would I even want to work with those people? Or any of, if they're not good for my ego or my image, or why would I want to be loving and encouraging to someone else? They're my competition, because that's how they view life. That it's all this ego kind of competition. Well, I don't want those people to do better. I don't want to be loving and encouraging and supportive of those people. I only want to be loving and encouraging and supportive of the people who are equally going to kind of be good for my ego and my image. What can some of those people do for me? How about trying to make the world a better place? How about trying to help less people drive their life off into the ditch? How about to encourage other people to work through some of their issues and be a bright spot in their life? And some people are like, I don't give a damn about those people. If they're not indulging me in my ego or going to be good for my ego and my image, I don't give a damn, Anyway, some people freed themselves from some more immature ways of being within themselves, got themselves out of some patterns they were repeating, got out of some relationships with people or workplaces where they realized some of those people were not who maybe they said they were, and kind of feeling like maybe those people have some growing up and maturing to do, but they don't want to put in the work and effort to heal. It takes work and effort emotionally to heal. And some people aren't even connected in with their emotional nature. And that can be kind of, I'm going to, some people even just want to kind of do the poor, poor, pitiful me. The death, the change, the despair, the sweetheart. And some people like playing that role in the world. Because then all these other people, oh, look at poor me, something happened, a relationship ended, or things didn't work out for me. And then they want all these loving people in their life to come, indulge them. They might be people who are used to being indulged by other people when they have things go on in their life. And they like that. We can all like it if we're going through a difficult time in our life to have loving and encouraging people in our life. But most people don't want to keep staying in that energy. They're, trying to work through it. They don't want to stay in that kind of energy, and they are inspired within themselves to heal and appreciate the people in their life who are loving and encouraging and supportive. And they do that work within themselves to heal and overcome challenging times in their life. It can all take time, but they are inspired within themselves to do it. And some people are in that phase of life right now. Some of them are coming out of it and they're moving forward, making peace with some of these issues from the past. The Five of Pentacles can talk about moving forward, holding themselves and other people accountable. I need to invest in high vibe energy, offering myself love, compassion, forgiveness, maybe taking over the role of being the loving and encouraging and supportive person in my life, or maybe I used to look to other people to play that role in my life. I need to play that role in my life. And there's some people in the world that don't ever want to play that role in their own life. Their idea of a just and fair relationship is they want to repeat this pattern of, I don't want to put in work and effort to hold myself or other people accountable, but I do want to be in friendship or relationship, but I don't want to change, and are looking for someone to be that kind of caregiver in their life. So it can be someone, regardless of how they present themselves in the world, they could be looking emotionally for someone. Will you be like my mom or dad in my life? You know? Will you indulge me maybe like a parent would a child? Even though I can be an adult and I can seem very stable and abundant or grounded or mature in a lot of ways, and in a lot of ways they could be more mature, again, than other people that you could know, but they still kind of have this philosophy of life that maybe it should just be kind of more about them. And maybe hoping other people will give up their dreams to repeat this pattern that by worldly standards maybe could look very just and fair in the world, like you have justice in the world by some worldly view. But you don't love and believe in yourself, and don't ever expect me to change, don't ever expect me to heal. And the whole thing is, some people have I'm not expecting anybody to change anymore, but I'm also not getting in a relationship anymore with people who show me they're kind of repeating this pattern or have some of these traits, characteristics, vices, ways of living life or viewing life that aren't aligned with my truth. Can I be an encouraging person in those people's life? You know them socially, you know them at work, you know them in your community or your family. Yeah. Do I want to invest more time and energy in you? No. When I see you out, if I can see that you're still, nothing's changed, you haven't gotten inspired within yourself to deal with the truth of some things, or you just have a way of living life. Again, it could be like the equivalent of someone who's like 35 seeing someone else who's like 35, but they kind of live their life like an 18 or a 21-year-old, and it's like, can I know you? Can I enjoy your company? Can I be an encouraging, supportive person in your life? Yeah. When I see you, do I want to invest more time and energy in you when I see that's kind of how you live your life, and I don't want to live my life like that? I've been there and I've done it. I've already been through the drama, but they keep going through the drama, and they might not want to ever see the truth that they could get themselves in friendships or relationships for these different reasons. And you could tell people the truth, and then sometimes those people can get mad at you because they don't like that you're telling them the truth. High vibe Virgo and Capricorn that people can harness within themselves could be, trying to offer resources to people. It's just like some people, hey, you could come work here. And they're like, oh, no. There's always some reason as to why they can't do that job. And partly, if people were motivated and inspired within themselves to change, they'd change. And we can kind of see that some people have no motivation to change, and they could be, some of them, living their life in a way that by worldly standards looks very just and fair and abundant in certain ways that they're happy with. You might know them more than some other people, and you might know their it's kind of just repeating this old pattern and have some issues they haven't dealt with, or things or people that they're more codependent on. Things that manipulate them that don't manipulate you, basically. And at one time when you were maybe in a relationship with them, worked at that job, wanted to marry them, did marry them for some, because the King of Pentacles and the Queen of Pentacles is the only married through the deck. But it can also represent business and all those things too. And bosses and supervisors, or you in relationship to other people. You know, you didn't want to keep moving forward with those people because you feel like nothing ever changes, or they are a little more shadowy Scorpio and shadowy Taurus, shadowy Libra, shadowy Cancer. The despair card's kind of like the Five of Cups. The sweetheart, maybe in their Gemini nature, of their free will nature and their Virgo nature. The truth is they could just be more caught up and inspired to make their life more about the world. And it's kind of the driving factor, maybe not love, getting more balanced within themselves, tipped out of balance, making their life more about them or the world or things they go indulge in, or things that manipulate them that they don't want to see the truth of. Whatever it is, you could have felt at one time that it could have seemed very abundant and you could have moved forward with those people. But then as time moved forward, in any phase of life, like this was back when I was talking about when we go to a stage of life, it's like, yeehaw, like I'm going to that next stage of life. Well, we move forward in it, but then as time goes by, the Five of Pentacles can talk about it wasn't as abundant as it was. Just like we love turning maybe 18 or turning 21. Yeehaw. But then we move forward in it, and as we keep moving forward in it, eventually it becomes like less abundant. Kind of because we kind of did learn everything we needed to learn there. And that's when people kind of get inspired within themselves to face their fears to go to the next stage of life. Even though they could have some mental conflict and some fears, they kind of do this work within themselves to work through their fears and insecurities. I could either keep repeating that old pattern, which does not move my life forward, or I want the justice I deserve, and that is to work through my fears and insecurities and my self-limiting beliefs, to believe in my dreams, and I do the work. Taurus, like Virgo and Capricorn, is earth sign energy. It takes work and effort to get out of our own lack mentality and self-limiting beliefs, and put in some work and effort to invest in ourselves and love ourselves, or if that is going and getting some more experience in other areas of how you might need to get more experience in your work life, or it could be education or whatever it is. But I don't want to keep repeating this pattern. I'm ready to move forward. And again, when some people are ready to move forward, some other people aren't. And when some people see the truth that some people are ready to move forward, some of those people can be, which you would never expect, they can become more hurtful or unkind or bossy or controlling. All these kind of shadowy ways to try to stop you from moving forward because they don't want to move forward like that. That's not their truth. It's kind of like they want you to come back and do it the old way. But, you're not the same person that you were. When I got into any of these stages of life, I looked at life and viewed life and felt and had all these ways about me that were true about me at that time. But I don't stay static, I am, people who are kind of in high vibe energy, periodically they look through some of their issues that manipulate them. I don't want to keep carrying that baggage. So then they work through it and they kind of get to the other side. And the other people, they would have to do that too. And some of them are like, this, that. And some of them, but that's when they could do some kind of hurtful or unkind. And an interesting thing is, too, is that since some of the more shadowy people, what would drive and motivate them to take certain action in their life would be because they could be more codependent on the world, kind of, only if there was some opportunity that would be better for their ego or their image or their status, because that's ultimately maybe more what drives and motivates them. So sometimes when other people just do this work within themselves because they're inspired within themselves to do it, they can kind of really become defensive because they can think, because they can't relate to that. What? You're just emotionally inspired within yourself to like change? There's no reason outside of yourself, really? It's just you? That they have a hard time with because they are not motivated and inspired within themselves to change. So when other people in their life change or are doing some of this work, well, it must be that you want to, be in a relationship with someone else or whatever. There must be something outside of the situation that is motivating and driving you, because that's what motivates and drives them. And that's when, people get jealous and envious and up in their head and sure you don't love them anymore or whatever. Or if you want to go get an education or get a better job, you must want to leave them. And it can just be people that they're not more inspired within themselves to maybe know their worth and value and appreciate what they bring to the table and why you want to be in a relationship with them. And they might be people who don't really listen to their intuition, and then they can get in the mad, angry, woe is me, or poor pitiful me, or and if they would be willing to kind of get out of that way of thinking and communicate some of their concerns, but you also have to come out of your ego to be willing to do that, and some people aren't, and it isn't conducive, and those are some lessons that people have learned, that other people have, which they probably did. They did try to communicate with people their truth. They were maybe loving and nurturing and supportive, but the other people, either that's just not the kind of relationship, or they don't want to be that kind of person, or they don't believe you, or they don't believe in themselves enough, and eventually it's like, this doesn't seem to be your truth. I accept that. We have different philosophies of life. I wish you peace and love. I'm going to accept the truth, deal with the truth, work through my own grief and sadness and heartbreak. But I have a dream and we don't seem to be on the same page. So now I'm going to take action to invest in my truth, and those people are going to invest in their truth. And it can be emotionally this completely different way of looking at life and maybe what drives and motivates you. So some of those people, whether they're friends, family, neighborhood people, coworkers, if some of you are in a relationship, you could still be in that relationship, and it's just not letting these outside influences, and you in your friendship groups or your workplace, not letting these kind of outside influences, be loving and encouraging and supportive to people, but don't get dragged into the drama, and maybe kind of keep your distance and work with the people who are working together with you more cooperatively, who have freed themselves from some of these more, again, trying to present themselves as more high vibe when they're really not, and or just got some issues to deal with. We're all kind of looking to work with people who at any whatever emotional maturity level or whatever that we're at, wanting to work with people who we think are kind of motivated and inspired to live their life. And when we were at those previous stages, we left behind an old stage, and then we were at that stage, and we were here wanting to work with people who were at that stage. And then when we moved on from that stage, we were at this stage, so, We all are at where we're at any given moment. And kind of, some people in our life, we work through those things together and we keep moving forward with some of those people. And some of the people kind of drop off in our life for different reasons. What's coming up for the people who harness some high vibe Cancer energy that have done this work within themselves? They're not the same person that they were before. And they are investing in themselves, in their truth, maintaining balance within themselves, wanting to be in more balanced relationships, holding themselves accountable, not indulging in poor behavior in themselves or others. What's coming up for them that they might not see coming? A card not showing itself, and the reason is because of the Eight of Cups. So, like Virgo energy, Pisces energy, this is kind of like the earth sign energy, and this is like the emotional water sign energy. Cancer is a cardinal sign, so it's kind of that, and Aries and Libra and Capricorn are the energies that we can tap into to start new things. And we start out like in Cancer, then we get in things emotionally in Scorpio once we're in them, and then Pisces and Virgo help us transition out. So you decided to invest in yourself and saw the truth, and love is the truth. So you offered yourself truth and love to see through the illusion, either how the world manipulated you, other people, other things. And to the Seven of Cups, the Eight of Cups walks away from the Seven of Cups. And it can be like either that it's not your truth anymore, and some people in your life could have just been more emotionally shallow and superficial. And in high vibe energy, you want more authentic, inspired by truth and love type of relationships. So you became independent of those things and you're moving forward in your life. And then as you move forward, what you don't see coming, and you kind of keep doing this work within yourself, what you might not see now and what some other people might not see for even longer or understand is that as you do this work within yourself, you're detaching from how you used to harness this energy in a more worldly, shadowy way that kind of had a hold on you, As long as you harness that energy in a more worldly, shadowy way, then you kind of more related or had some affinity towards some things or people, right? And as you keep doing this and working on this within yourself to harness it in a more high vibe way, you will detach from that more worldly, shadowy way, which in turn, then you're not on the same page as some of those people, and you're willing to detach from some of those people also. So what is it? The Three of Cups in reverse. The Three of Cups is Cancer energy. So there can be people in our life that we love. Cancer energy can be about that. In the Three of Cups, though, you want to work together with people cooperatively in love and, be loving and encouraging of each other to be independent, to love and believe in yourself and believe in your dreams. And you could be someone who does that in people's lives. But do other people do that for you? Some of the people. And it's just kind of seeing who are the people who do and who are the people who don't. And who are the people that could try to use the fact that you're a loving person to try to use the love that you have for them to manipulate you. You should stay in this because you shouldn't love and believe in yourself. You should stay in this even if I am kind of intimidating and controlling, or do things that are hurtful or unkind, or I never change, or I'm emotionally shallow and superficial. By worldly standards, it could look just and fair. Isn't that good enough? And it's like, maybe at one time it was good enough, but I don't want to keep being in a relationship with people who aren't willing to offer love to themselves and be more independent and want me to be more independent and want me to kind of let the things that manipulate them manipulate me. And it's like, but those things don't manipulate me, or those people don't manipulate me that way. And so long as those things do keep manipulating you, I want to be in a relationship with people who are manipulated by hope and faith and belief and love and in themselves, and to be more independent. And if that's not where they're at, it's like, I wish you peace and love, but I can't keep doing this because I don't think people are holding other people accountable for their actions. And we could know people in turn who are being emotionally manipulated by people in their life. Well, then enjoy those people. If that's where, it interferes with you moving forward in this way, then go enjoy those people. People are either willing to make a decision. Sometimes people have to make these decisions. And some people are like, well, just let those people manipulate me or this. But they're too, the thing that can manipulate them is their fear and their insecurity and their selfish nature and their bossy nature and their abusive nature. Well, just let that manipulate me, but you don't have to let it affect you the way it affects me. It's like, it affects me if people aren't taking responsibility and healing. That's a free will choice to become independent of some ways of being. And if you're not willing to become independent, you kind of must think those ways of being are just and fair. So I'm going to let you live your life with people who also could think that way. And you can all live happily ever after, never having to change, never having to take accountability, never having to grow up and mature yourself, never becoming more independent. And I'm going to go hang out with the people who do want to do that. So basically kind of cutting out things that used to emotionally manipulate you, and it could even be things within yourself that you used to indulge in to make yourself feel better. And it's like, those things don't move my life forward the way I want it to move forward. I need to see the truth of it. And just like we could have to mourn some people not being in our life anymore, if you had some habits and patterns and vices that was kind of your go-to to make you feel better, and you're not doing that anymore, yeah, it is like going through a grieving process, kind of mad that you can't indulge in those things that used to make you feel better, or you thought they did, but, it's kind of like a short-term gratification. And shadowy energy can be represented by the devil lies, but it offers immediate gratification. And it's like, I want justice and I want long-term stability and security and gratification. So there it can be just in balance. I can do some of the things that I want to do. I just need to do them in balance and moderation. Then they kind of don't get more influence or impact in my life. And I keep investing in the truth of not letting things that aren't in my best interest, giving them too much importance in my life in a way, or making it more important in my life than I should. So what's coming up for the people who might harness a more worldly, shadowy Cancer energy that they might not see coming? Oh, and up here you might be surprised. There's going to be some people who move forward with you who, whatever it is, or situations, everybody could be dealing with different situations. We could meet them out in the world somehow. And then we maybe just getting to know each other. And then as we get to know each other, it's like, yeah, I would like to hang out with you more, get to know you more, or work with you more, or whatever the case is. And as you keep taking action in your truth and not kind of giving in to your more shadowy ways of being, and granting people, letting people do their thing, kind of, maybe keeping your distance, but extending kind of grace. Some of those people might do some of that work within themselves. But if not, you accept the truth of it and you listen to your intuition. It's time to move forward. What's coming up for the more worldly, shadowy people they don't see coming? We have the Ten of Pentacles, the Magician, the Empress, and the Five of Pentacles. And the reason is because of the Six of Swords in reverse. So Well, shadowy people can always have more high vibe people in their life at any given moment in their life between friends or family members. The shadowy people might not harness a more high vibrational Aquarius energy. They might be people who lack some hope and faith and belief in themselves, or have a hard time looking at life from a higher perspective. So those would be traits of high vibe Aquarius energy. And they might not, again, kind of defensive here to the death to putting in work and effort to heal and deal with the truth. And this could be connecting in more with their emotions and their intuition, because they could lack some hope and faith in themselves, in others, in love. And so the truth is, they're kind of more about either these things they indulge in, or themselves, or making it about these things of the world. And those things kind of really manipulate them. And maybe they're attractive, they're charming, good physique, money, status, image. And they could keep thinking, I don't have to look at life from a higher perspective. I can just create the illusion, maybe because I look a certain way, I have a certain status, image, social clout, attractiveness, or whatever. I don't think I got to do that. I think there's other people who are going to want to be in a relationship with me because of these things of the world that I have. Or again, the way they look. Well, yeah, the Ten of Pentacles can mean in the 3D world, some people have some ways about them that other people can be attracted to. You know, it looks very stable and abundant in a lot of ways. And so there will be other people who are looking for people at whatever stage of life they're at, of what they view as being abundant in some type of way. But these people keep thinking they can create an illusion. But if they get in relationships with people in more high vibe energy of the Empress, those are people who are more just, fair, balanced, motivated, and inspired by love. And those people want to bring a dream into reality. You know, they can put that on pause like for a while to get to know people. But then it's kind of to move forward in the Five of Pentacles. Detach from this old foundation in this stage of life to take it to the next stage of life. And these people are like, nope, I'm not doing that. I want to keep moving forward just like this. So in their Five of Pentacles, let's keep doing this. Let's just keep moving forward like this. And the other people are like, we've done this phase of life. It's kind of like, I got to know you, I dated you, for example, you know, and then we're supposed to go to like the next phase of life. Is that what you want to kind of emotionally give birth to? And they're like, nope, not that. I thought we could just keep doing this like forever. And some people would be like, that might be your idea of the dream life. That's not my idea of the dream life. Because in shadowy fire sign energy, you could feel like they kind of want to be in a relationship, but not really inspired to really bring the dream into reality. Or if you take a job and people present themselves as these just and fair and stable, grounded people, and then you get in the job, and then you kind of found out they're kind of creating an illusion, and all the things that they promised aren't ever coming into reality. But shadowy people can just hope that if they can get you in it, it will be hard for you to leave it, because, you know, we all would kind of like the things that we've invested in to work out the way we wanted. And that's what some shadowy people are counting on. Hoping that you'll kind of give up your dream and just keep moving forward in it and creating the illusion that it's really something that it's not. It's not what you thought it was when you got in it. And over time, you realize that. And they're just hoping, you know, that people will keep staying in it anyway. And they might find people in their life who are willing to do that. And that's up to them. That's those people's free will choice. Some of the people who've already left their life, they don't really care. You know, if it works out for you and you find someone who's willing to do that, I didn't want to do that, so I left. I left that job, I left that friendship, I left that relationship because nothing was changing. And I don't think anything's going to be changing. You know, if other people aren't willing to change, they're the same person in the next job, friendship, or relationship that they get into. They didn't heal, grow, or mature themselves. And then they just go get in another job, friendship, or relationship, and it's like they're the same person, but try to create the illusion, you know, that they've changed and that they've learned these lessons, but they haven't. They're going to repeat those same patterns of ways of being in the next job, relationship, or friendship because they weren't willing to see the truth. And I guess if there's someone else they can manipulate who's willing to keep them in that job or stay in that friendship or relationship, well, that's for those people to decide. But it will not move forward the way they think. Sometimes shadowy people think, oh, I can create what those people are creating. I just maybe need to get me a loving person or a stable, grounded, whatever, you know, whatever it is that they want. And it's like, it takes two. You have to work cooperatively together. And they're like, no, because again, it could be, they could think they'd be happy with just the illusion of it. But the other people don't want to be in an illusion. And some people could think, no, I'm okay if it's more superficial and shallow and more about me or more about them or more about the money or the materialism or the things we indulge in. I don't want to do this work anyway and I'm not inspired by other things. I'm sure I'll be happy continuing to live my life like this. Well, if they're happy, not kind of growing themselves to their full potential, if that was their dream, was to not free themselves from things that manipulate them, then in a way, I guess that's what they manifested. They didn't manifest the dream. They manifested maybe feeling left out in the cold, being in more superficial, shallow relationships, them being able to manipulate people if that's what they feel makes them feel like they're powerful or in control or they can manipulate someone or whatever. You know, what is it that drives and motivates people? I guess if people are like, I just want to be in a relationship with people who I don't think are ever going to leave. Well, great. They might get in a relationship with someone who's never going to leave. If they want to be in a relationship with someone who doesn't love and believe in themselves and isn't independent, wonderful. You might have manifested being in a relationship with someone who doesn't love and believe in themselves or believe in their dreams. Are you happy? You know, for some people they are because they're so ego-driven. It would be such a blow to my ego. What if I really put in work and effort to try to bring a dream into reality, and what if it didn't work out? I'd really be in my ego. So I gave up that dream and I'm just going to play this role in people's lives, good or bad. Okay. Some other people who weren't willing to give up their dreams. You know, and that's high vibe Scorpio. I want to go on the roller coaster of life. It has the highs, it has the lows. There is no guarantee that anything will work out the way I want. I'm working with other complex human beings, which is also Scorpio energy. I don't know at what point in time people are going to get caught up in their head, get manipulated, give in to their more immature, lustful, greedy nature, prideful nature, stubborn nature. All I can do is take action in my truth. If I am enjoying and loving the people and we are getting along, then I'm going to have hope and faith and I'm going to go on that journey. We don't really have Sagittarius out here, but that is kind of like a Sagittarius energy, which is fire sign energy. And if, as we go, I see that some patterns are being repeated, I can be loving and compassionate and supportive. But if I see over time that people seem to kind of have driven their life off into the ditch, don't seem to want to get out of the ditch or want me to keep being in a relationship with them being in the ditch, I'm going to wish them peace and I'm going to keep going on my journey. Because at every moment we are making these decisions in our Taurus philosophy of life of what we want to invest our time, energy, and effort into. And some people can decide they want to be more immature or more indulged or try to manipulate the loving people in their life. Yep, that's not my truth. And some people have had some people in their life who've been trying, offering them love to try to get them to move forward, love and believe in themselves, work through these things that manipulate them, look at life from a higher perspective. And kind of people realize that, the truth. If you're motivated and inspired to do that, you would. And I finally see the truth out of love for myself and love for you. If that's your truth, you do that. That's not my truth. And I'm leaving. And then they could be sad again that a different relationship didn't work out, but they're unwilling to be more balanced, be more just, be more fair, act with character and integrity, quit trying to manipulate or control people, quit being manipulated by things that manipulate them. Well, until they do, they're, eventually they might end up more surrounded by people who are more like themselves. I'll be in a relationship because you look a certain way or have a certain social clout or we indulge in these certain things or because of the money or the status or the image. That if that's their philosophy of life and what kind of drives and motivates them, then that's what drives and motivates them. The only problem is if you're not in a relationship, you build a solid foundation built on love. And if they're not building it on love, why are they in it? Well, someone else comes along with more status, more ego, more image, someone else who requires less of them, someone else that's sad that they can play that loving role and be like the martyr, but not have to put in as much work and effort to maintain balance within themselves to whatever degree. Those people will leave. We can only do the best we can do, but for the people who don't want to see the truth, they could keep having some patterns repeat on them over and over, wondering why these relationships don't work out. And it's like, well, if you haven't learned to stand up for yourself and love and believe in yourself and be less codependent or less about the ego and image, you're going to get in a relationship with other people who are happy that you haven't. Because they haven't either. And that's maybe why it doesn't work out. But I don't know, and there's some people that they haven't worked through some issues that they have about some people in their past or their life. And because of that, they keep getting drawn and attracted to being in relationships with people like that. Because if they don't do the work within themselves, they will be drawn and attracted to those people because it's like high vibe energy of the divine is trying to set them free. But if they're not willing to see the truth and kind of do the work within themselves to go about it the easy way, they're going to go about it the hard way. And then some people, so dumb, but like, I want these people that I'm sad about to be in a relationship with me. And out of their ego, they try to present themselves. Look at me. Look at my life. Look how great it is. Look how I'm moving on. Waiting for some people in their life who previously didn't move forward with them, for those people to come to want to get back in a relationship with them. But some of the other people already saw the truth of them, and that's what they don't get. So they're spending all this time, maybe even in a relationship, with people they don't want to be in a relationship with, to try to manipulate some other people that they want to have be in a relationship with them. And some people might think of using you to try to get in a relationship with, to try to manipulate some other people or create an illusion about who they are. And the high vibe people maintain balance within themselves, willing to get to know people, not get in a more involved relationship with them until they feel like they've gotten to know them better, to kind of know the truth of who they are. Because they know if they emotionally invest in people more that they do get emotionally invested, that it's hard for them to get out of it. So it's like, I'm willing to get to know you, but you kind of stay in the friend zone until I get more clear about what drives and motivates you. And then, yeah, I might take that leap of faith and we'll see how it goes. But much more with this experience that people have gone through, less likely to put up with bullshit. So if some people, after things move forward, then start to think that they can pull some bullshit, it's like, no. It's like, what are you doing? This needs to stop. Or, it's like you look back when you were younger, the bullshit that you put up with in friendships or relationships or workplaces, and it's like, no. I'm not going to repeat that old pattern. What's going on? Tell me what's going on. Can we work through this? If this isn't your truth, then go do something else. I will be just fine, and I will move on. And then there's going to be some people, I don't know, get in a relationship to be in a relationship, maybe, because it looks good by worldly standards. Gave up on believing in themselves and believing in their dreams. Something like that. Oh, and then we have from the Buddhism reading card, pure action. Refrain from that which is unskillful or that which harms. Do good and purify your heart. That is it. Consciously bring your inner awareness to your actions as you make a commitment not to harm or destroy any life, not to take away things that don't belong to you, and not to use sex in a harmful way to yourself or others. Your actions will become free of old habits, past experiences, and any negative emotions. The Purity card. So there you go, Cancer. I wish you peace, love, and joy. Oh, and you don't have to be a Cancer sun sign yourself, but you could have dealt with some people that harnessed a more shadowy Cancer energy, and you harnessed some more high vibe Cancer energy, and you kind of saw the truth of it. And I think when you listen to truth and love to guide you, I think judgment goes in your favor, and you get to go have a new beginning. You learn the lesson that you're meant to learn. You get to go forward to the next level of the video game of life. And while you're doing that, some people who think they can cheat the justice system are going to find out that some of the things that they're trying to accomplish aren't going to work out the way they thought. Because it's like thinking, you can act like you're a certain type of person and you can have more money, more status, more whatever, right? But other people in the world see the truth. They can see you're still like immature or prideful or stubborn or superficial or shallow, or it's all materialistic. And other people don't quite want to hang out with those people. So they could have all these things in the world, but if part of their dream was to be included by a group, that group might reject them because, I don't know, it's all strategic in a way. So there you go. I wish you peace, love, and joy, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.